In this video, I'm going to show you the top most common jab mistakes. I'm going to explain why they're mistakes and what the solutions are. Ready to improve your jab? Let's get ready to rumble. So the first most common jab mistake is the chicken wing elbows. What is the chicken wing elbows? Chicken wing elbows is when you're throwing a jab and before your arm extends, your elbows come out at the side like a chicken would. So you're throwing jabs like that. And why is this a problem? Well, people can see your jab coming from a mile away. If you got your elbow sticking out, they know you're going to try and throw a punch. Same when your shoulder flinches. It's why when you're flinching, you can chippily sort of like move your shoulder and your arm without fully extending it. And that's how you catch your opponent by surprise. But if you're going to be throwing a jab like that and you're in range, you're putting yourself up to get slapped. So what's the solution? Well, the solution is simple. You just got to rotate your shoulder and your arm and your forearm and your wrist at the end of the punch. So you're going from your chin to their chin. Just one straight jab. Yeah. Second most common jab mistake is telegraphing, winding up the jab. So what is it? Well, as I just showed you, it's when you're really sort of winding up and trying to get as much power in your jab as possible and then throwing that jab. And it's a problem because, again, people will be able to see that from a mile away. The solution is instead of winding up the jab, you want to be throwing from your chin and just making it as unobvious as possible that you're throwing the punch. You want to be completely indirect about it. So it'd be just one straight punch instead of, or even just like any type of wind up will be problematic. The third mistake when you're throwing a jab is jabbing in close range. So let's say that this plant here, it's called Susie, is my opponent's head, and I'm throwing a jab, but I'm this like close to them, so my jabbing arm won't be able to fully extend when I hit Susie in the head. So the thing to do would be to ensure that the Susie is at least one arm distance away. It can be slightly less. Sometimes you can have an effective jab if it's slightly closer still, but you never want to be throwing jabs up close. You want to be throwing powerful uppercuts and sharp hooks to, The fourth most common jab mistake is rotating across your body. So if your opponent's slightly to the right, is moving around, he's got good footwork or she's got good footwork, and then moving around you, then it's not good to throw jabs like out to the side or even just across your body, because it's slower to get back. It puts you off balance, and it'd be much more effective if you get in your position to throw your jab at your opponent in one straight punch, in one straight line. What you can do is, if your opponent's moving to the side, is you can stop them with like a right hook, but you never want to be jabbing across your body because it puts you off balance and it doesn't work out well. The fifth most common jab mistake is not rotating your arm. What is not rotating your arm? Let me show you. As you can see, this right here is a pencil. The pencil is facing up. I throw a jab to you now, and I don't rotate my arm inwards, then the pencil's going to continue facing upwards. And I'm not going to get as much power in my jab as I would be able to if instead I'd rotated my arm so that the pencil is facing that way. So you want to be throwing jabs where, I don't want to stab myself in the face, but so the pencil always should be facing that way. Another issue is if you don't rotate your jab, then you could hyperextend your arm and cause injury because you haven't thrown in the correct punching technique. The sixth most common jab mistake, and it's probably the most common for professional fighters, is just not using the jab enough. The jab is the most important punch in boxing because it can help stun your opponent. It can help you find your range when you're not sure where your opponent's body is, and it can also help set up other combinations as well. So you want to always be throwing a jab as much as possible throughout the fight. It should be the most thrown punch in boxing. The seventh most common boxing jab mistake is not retracting your punch quick enough. So you're having a fast extraction, but the intraction or retraction rather is slow. Problem of a slow retraction for your punch is that if you throw a punch, then your whole upper body, and your sort of torso is and ribs are all exposed. So it's important to get back into your defensive boxing stances as soon as possible, ideally with your hands up if that's your fighting stance. The 8th most common jab mistake is not fully extending your arm when you're throwing a jab. This is a problem because if you're not fully extending your arm, then you're not getting as much power and speed and snap in your punches as you would as if you did fully extend your arm. And it also enables you, if you did extend your arm, to retract much faster, because it's like a slingshot in a way. What goes out must also come back in. So make sure you're getting full extension on your jabs. A good way of overcoming common jab mistakes is just by filming yourself when you're shadow boxing, filming yourself when you're sparring, filming yourself when you're hitting the heavy bag, because the more you are able to identify what you are doing wrong on camera, the more you're able to rectify that, and you can work with a coach to point out your flaws as well. Can equally be as useful. But if you haven't got a coach or you're away from your coach, then make sure to film yourself. It can be extremely useful. The 9th most common jab mistake is not tucking your chin. And I've been guilty of doing that this video as well. For some sort of softball, and then you want to be practicing, jogging balls are good as well because they're quite softer, they're slightly smaller as well. But you just want to be practicing shadow boxing with a tennis ball under your chin. And that will help keep your chin tucked, which will mean that if someone throws a punch, then it's hard for them to hit your jaw, which is one of the weakest and most vulnerable parts of your head that someone can hit. By having a tennis ball or by tucking your chin during an actual fight, people will be more likely to hit your shoulders because you have more protection that way. The 10th most common jab mistake is overcommitting a jab. This is a big problem because when you're overcommitting a jab, you're trying to sort of reach for your opponent, then it can put you off balance, and it can mean that you get caught with a counter attack, a counter combination, because you've overextended. It's harder, it takes a long time to retract, or it takes longer to retract, and you should never be reaching for your punches. You should always be finding a range and then throwing your fast shot punches in the pocket, then getting back out of the pocket. So why is it that boxers struggle with the jab or have jab mistakes? Well, the first reason is a lack of experience. Second reason is mindless practice as opposed to deliberate practice. Mindless practice is when you are going to the boxing gym every day and you're chatting with your mates, you're hitting the bag however you feel like hitting it, and not working on specific movements and filming yourself like you would with deliberate practice. Deliberate practice, on the other hand, is when you're focusing on something that you're not yet an expert in, and working on that over and over again until you've got that consistency and that repeated myelin, which will build up in your brain and help you to develop that new skill which you weren't very good at before. So it's really important, like, how you are spending your time in the gym, because it's great that you can train every day, but if you're not in the gym every day working deliberately on something that is difficult, that your coach wants you to work on, then the rate of improvement would be vastly higher for the individual that is practicing deliberately as opposed to mindlessly. So it's a big one. And of course, practicing deliberately is much harder than mindlessly because it just requires more mental fatigue and effort. The third reason why people have bad jabs is because they haven't got a good boxing coach. Like, for example, if you walked into Floyd Mayweather's gym and had a coach, and you had, I don't know, Floyd himself coaching you, then you'd be far better at jabbing than you would if you went to just some amateur boxing gym and had someone who knows a lot about boxing and has coached amateurs before, but just hasn't got that professional expertise to be coaching what could be a professional fighter. So you always want to be scouting out, like, who's the best boxing coach in this area, who can teach me the best jab, because it takes years to master a jab alone, like with any punch. Fourth reason people can mess up with their jab is because fighters are human beings. They may be practicing all the time throwing their jab in the gym, but when it comes to the arena itself, the other fighter could get to you mentally, or you could be having an off day and therefore just not, throwing how you normally would. So, yeah, that's where common jab mistakes can occur, is when a fighter has an off day, because they're human. So in conclusion, everybody makes mistakes, and I hope that this video helps you make less of them and helps you identify jab mistakes that you wouldn't have otherwise made. What jabbing mistake have you made in the past? I used to have chicken wing elbows before. Is the jab the most important punch in boxing? Perhaps you'd like to ask a question. Either way, let me know by leaving a comment below or messaging me on Instagram. Please like, subscribe, share this video with your friends, and have a great day.